So hello everyone and welcome to the show. My name is Wheelhouse and I actually got a parking ticket for being illegally parked the other day. Yeah, I did. I had no idea why, as the sign clearly said fine for parking. Anyways, on with the show! So hello everyone, my name is Wheelhouse and welcome back to yet another edition of It's Just a Podcast. So we're more than halfway through the series already. I mean, I cannot believe how fast this series has gone by. I mean, we've had lots of good responses already from the series, from you lovely lot. So yeah, thank you all very much for tuning in, really. I appreciate it so much. We've got a fly in the studio. Hang on. Come on, little fly. Out you go. Or buzz off, shall I say. I mean, for goodness sake, I'm trying to communicate English to a bleeding fly. Not that it's listening. Why's it going towards the wall? No, this way. This way. No, this way. Oh, for goodness sake.
The door is this way. Please exit the premises.
You know, I don't get the logic in how a fly can get into a room from the smallest of gaps in an open window. But when you open a door out wide, it can't get itself out. I mean, I can imagine it's like...
I can see the light, but I'm not sure which direction it's in. I think I'll try going left.
That's the wrong way! I mean, even in your living room, it makes its way through the smallest of gaps in the window latch. It's buzzing around all over the place, like bzz, bzz, bzz. I mean, sometimes it likes to have a little swim in your cup of tea, but then it realises it can't swim! Next thing you know, you have a dead fly in your mug! And even if it avoids drowning itself in your cup of tea, it just has to annoy the hell out of you. Annoys you to the point you go, right! That is it! So, you go and open the big patio doors to let it out. Can't miss their way out this time. You'd think it would be impossible! But he still doesn't know how the hell to get out!
This looks like the way out. Bzz.
Wrong side of the room! Okay, so in this edition of It's Just a Podcast, I'm going to be answering how come gaming's addictive, going through my experiences with gaming, and hopefully offering some lovely advice to you lot, like a good old agony aunt. So all that is still to come, right here on It's Just a Podcast. Right, so brews ever ready, folks, as it's that time again. Yes, it's time for topic of the podcast. Alright, so to tell you the truth, I'm not really a gamer. I used to own a Nintendo DS when I was a kid, I suppose, playing Mario Kart and Sims on there, as well as playing Crash Bandicoot and Harry Potter on the PlayStation 1. But that's about it, really. I did play, I suppose I played a bit of Call of Duty growing up with friends and stuff, but I've never really been known as what's called a heavy gamer. Not at all. But ever since I brought back Crash Bandicoot for the PlayStation 4, I couldn't resist getting my hands on the game, as it's such a childhood memory for me. So, not even having owned a PlayStation since the releases of the first and second one, I decided to get one to play, just seriously, just to play Crash Bandicoot, the reboot game. But I do have to admit, saying that, I have had a hell of a lot of fun on it. Now, I wouldn't say that I was addicted to gaming, but I did spend a lot of time playing Crash, and then I remember playing on Grand Theft Auto every now and again on my brother's Xbox when he was younger. Now, for those of you who have never played Grand Theft Auto, it's not the most violentest of games, but it is quite graphical. And it's not the fact that I've got problems watching graphical stuff. It tends to have a bad impact, let's say, on my sleeping pattern, this in which I didn't actually realise until the start of this year when I, started playing it. And for a good couple of weeks, I wasn't sleeping very good and was waking up from, let's say, very graphical nightmares that I never experienced before. And eventually I decided, right, that's it, I have to do something about this. So the next day I wrapped up my PlayStation in bags of bin liners and put it away in storage. And even to this day, it's been left untouched. And to be honest, I don't regret doing it one bit. Yeah, I suppose I miss playing it, of course, but anything that has such an impact on me towards my mental health like that honestly ain't worth getting into. And that's when I started to raise the question to myself about gaming being addictive. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about this right after a quick break. So don't go anywhere.
Last piece, and that is the cabinet assembled.
Oh, brilliant!
Oh, doesn't that look amazing?
What's this in the box? Dave, I told you to follow the instructions.
How can they be spare parts? I've followed the instructions, it looks fine.
You say that now, but it could all fall apart tomorrow.
Shia, we throw in extra parts just to mess with you.
I should have just collected one second hand.
This wing tin is amazing, Sophie. I've already put in where I work, and I'm getting a list of people who used to work there 5 to 10 years ago, before I even did.
Wing tin. Connect with people for no real reason at all.
Lost Planet Studios presents a full cast audio drama.
Think of your worst ever nightmare coming to life.
James.
Answer me, man.
Get off him.
Find a man called Jimmy Hunter. Kill him. I'm counting on you, James.
The Detective audio series, a reminder of the past, coming this autumn to Lost Planet Studios.
Jack! He's alive! Alright, so hello everyone and welcome back to It's Just a Podcast, where we've just come back from a quick break there. Right, so I've talked a little bit about my experiences with gaming. Now I want to delve into what it is that makes it so addictive and how we can make the effects of gaming better for our mental health, because you may not think it, but gaming does have an impact on our mental health, because if you're not careful, it can make you lose your perception on what the real world actually is. Now, I'm not going to be sat here for the next 5 to 10 minutes just slagging down gaming, as games are brilliant and they ain't wrong with playing them. It's all about having a healthy balance and putting restrictions on ourselves to how long we play these games for, and I'm going to be giving you all some tips for this a little bit later on. So gaming, it can be, if not careful, gaming can of course be addictive, and this ain't always good, both for your mental health and financially. And yes, you did hear me there, financially. Basically, what it is, with most games, to upgrade onto getting stuff like better armour or gain levels or, better character costumes, for example, you have to spend a bit of money. And this can become, let's say, it can become a bit expensive, like very, very expensive. A good example of this was something that happened to me when I was younger. I used to play this game online that's called Habbo. It's basically like a social interactive game for people to make up their own virtual characters and live within their own digital world. A bit like how Club Penguin was for the oldies, in which, yes, I did have a membership for that one too. Now, unlike Habbo was at the time, Club Penguin would have parental controls, so your parents could monitor on whatever clothes or accessories your kids would buy through the game. But with Habbo, all you had to do was ring up their number and they would charge the credits you get through the householder's bill, in which, at the time, was my mum and dad. So, this one time I decided to upgrade from, like, the standard free room that you get with your account to, like, this sort of huge mansion. And then before you knew it, came along a swimming pool, jacuzzi, chihuahua, flat screen TV. Literally, I was the talk of Habbo. So, I'd call my dad up to my room and show him my swanky new crib, where I'd held all of these what would be Habbo's versions of a Simon party, and he would absolutely love it. But what he didn't realise at the time was that each bit of furniture in that virtual mansion, including the mansion itself, was all going into my dad's credit card. And by the end of the month, my dad was receiving a humongous bill of £400 from Harbo. Yeah, not my finest moments, I do have to admit. But do you see what I mean? That's how costly it can be when you become addicted. And I know I'm talking about this from when I was a kid here, but this still does happen with adults all the time. Honestly, you would be surprised. Now, current research suggests that 97% of young people play video games, which actually equates as 64 million kids between the ages of 2 to 17 in the US alone. And in the UK, 10% more kids between the ages of 2 to 5 actually know how to operate a smartphone appliance than know how to tie their own shoelaces. That's absolutely mental! So the main question here is, should we be playing video games or not? And I mean, that's technically like asking the question, should we be drinking or not? And the answer to that, I suppose, is if you can do it within moderation, yeah, that's fine. But what about if you can't? Does this mean you have to miss out on the gaming community? Now, to answer this, first off, we need to be asking ourselves the main reasons as to why we play video games in the first place. It is a good question, one in which I'm going to be trying to answer right now. Now, one of the main reasons, of course, is that it's a temporary escape from the real world. You might be using playing games to fill a hole in your life, like, I don't know, a death of someone you know, or going through like depression or anxiety, or going through like some sort of breakup or divorce. These are just a few reasons why we may be clutching a game console in our very hands. Now, another good reason is that playing video games is a challenge. It gives us a sense of purpose, gives us our own mission and a goal to work towards. And this in a way is a good thing for the brain, as it boosts up our self-esteem and confidence for whenever we win at a game, and that makes us feel good inside. And then lastly, games can also be very sociable for us as well. I mean, to tell you the truth, not all of us are very sociable people. I mean, take me for example, my social skills are awful. I mean, through this podcast you wouldn't even think it, but I have my own pre-written notes of this sort of stuff, but in real life, I'm just really bad at being social. Honestly, it's true. Now, one of the reasons why we don't actually hear all that much about video game addiction is because it's such a sensitive subject, and I just hope that with me making this sort of podcast today, just talking about it has some sort of impact to those who are listening, as gaming addiction is a serious thing, and I truly believe this. It falls within the mental health branch, or shall I say that it can do, let's say, if it becomes an addiction, that is. Now, I've watched video after video about this, listening to other people's experiences, and to tell you the truth, there ain't no secret remedy into overcoming gaming addiction. As with anything that can be addictive, like drinking or smoking for example, it's all about making small changes, one step at a time, and overcoming small hurdles. And those small changes can be like playing a little bit less each day, and just doing that as a slow, gradual process will make you notice big changes in your life later on. Like I say, it's all to do with taking small steps. So those are the basic principles as to why we get addicted to playing games, but what can we do about it to make those changes? Here are my top 3 steps to tackling gaming addiction. Step number 1, learning how to let go. And the first one is to simply just let go by focusing on those things that brings you, yes you, the things that make you happy in life. Whether that's pursuing a hobby, like going down to the pub with friends or going to the gym, whatever it is, just find yourself a distraction that will slowly but eventually replace gaming. But it has to be something that you will enjoy, because if it is, that will give you the same energy as gaming. However, you'll find yourself doing something way more productive and practical in your life than just playing games. Step number 2, limiting gaming hours. Do I get paid for this? A good way to do this is maybe perhaps to get yourself a timer, or use the obvious, your phone, and just time however long you play a game for and get to like an hour, and once it goes off, switch that console off. No matter what, just turn that thing off, and I'd allow yourself to use that timer twice a day. Perhaps one in the morning and one in the afternoon, and I think that if you reduce your time playing games to 2 hours each day, I think that's a good happy medium, and it gives you plenty of time in the day to do more important stuff that's obviously more productive, especially if you're like someone who would take up the whole of the day just playing video games, for instance. Just limiting back 2 hours is a really, really good start. And then, of course, those 2 hours can be reduced down to an hour and a half down the line, then an hour, but that's totally up to you, is that? But I'd probably start on something like 2 hours, and that is great progress, and it makes sense to me, does that? So yeah, give it a go. And step number 3, allow time to do stuff pre-gaming. Is that it? Right, that's a wrap. Now by this, I mean just fill up your time on a morning with doing tasks and duties that have to be completed before allowing yourself to turn on that game console. So I'd sort yourself out a routine on a morning that you've got to do before. So for example, get up, take a shower, get changed and brush your teeth, then have yourself a nice cooked breakfast, and then after that take your dog out for a walk, or maybe go to the gym if that's your sort of thing. And then probably by that time you would have already taken up the first couple of hours of your morning just by being more practical with your time than just playing video games all morning. So basically, in a nutshell, what you are doing is limiting your time from the game console and playing video games for at least an hour and a half to 2 hours in a day. And that's a really good start to curing your addiction. So yeah, that's it really. It's all about having a healthy balance and putting those restrictions on yourself, as video gaming can be so addictive, and that really does have real world implications. And not many people realise this until it's too late. But gaming addiction can also be related to mental health problems, and games are being used as a coping mechanism for like anxiety, depression or stress, and medical experts have now recognised gaming addiction as what is now being classed as a gaming disorder, in which is basically being seen as a mental health condition. Now, I've talked a little bit about my experiences with mental health in a previous podcast in this series, as it's such an important subject in today's day and age. And if you're going through any kind of mental health problem and you're using your gaming as a way of coping with it, the sad truth is that it's not the answer. Gaming is not your answer. It's an easy way out of whatever problems you are facing, and trust me, it can lead up onto much bigger problems if you're not careful. And the majority of the time, if we're experiencing mental health problems, we don't always have that much belief in ourselves. But don't worry, as there are people out there who believe in us just that little bit more than we do in ourselves. And I've got a list of organisations you can try getting in touch with that can maybe help you on your line to recovery. So first off is Mind, and they solely support all things to do with mental health. You can give them a ring on 0300 123 3393, or you can visit the website for further help and support at www.mind.org.uk. Next, if you're needing specialist support, whether that's emotionally or to do with mental health, there's Sane Line, and you can give them a call on 0300 304 7000, and their website www.sane.org.uk. Now for these last two, one is far more older audiences and the other is far more younger audiences, so do bear that in mind. First off, for our older audience, Samaritans offer emotional support for any sort of issue whatsoever, and you can give them a call on 116 123, where they're available to call 24 hours a day. And their website is www.samaritans.org, and you can find all the info and further support right there on their website. And finally, we've got Childline. Now, if you listen to our previous podcast on anxiety, you'll know that I used Childline when I was younger, when I was being bullied at school. And to be honest, it feels like a really safe place to go, and anything that you do talk about is kept strictly confidential and private. And if you age between 19 and under, they can help you out on any issue whatsoever. And mental health is also one of their most biggest support schemes. And the number to call them is 0800 1111, and they're available 24 hours a day. And if you've had any previous experiences with gaming addiction, or you're currently tackling it yourself at the moment and would like to share your story, we would love to hear from you. And here is how you can get in touch. If you've got something to say, then we definitely want to hear it. You can post your comments on Facebook over at It's Just a Podcast. Tweet us at ItsJustaPodcastUK, where you can go over and follow us. But we advise you don't follow us in person, as, you know, that's just a little bit creepy. Or you can give us a shout by sending us an email to ItsJustaPodcastUK@gmail.com. So go on then, get in touch. But sadly that's it, we are out of time for this edition of It's Just a Podcast. Thank you all so much for listening, and if you don't want to miss out on any single one of our future episodes, do make sure to subscribe to the official It's Just a Podcast YouTube channel. Have a fabulous week everyone, and I'll be back here next time for yet another edition of It's Just a Podcast. Adios amigos! Woohoo! This podcast has been produced by Lost Planet Studios, as well as presented and edited by Lewis Wheelhouse.